As we grow older, one of the most important decisions we face is who we choose to share our space and time with. In our later years more than ever, our mental peace, freedom, and well-being heavily depend on the people we surround ourselves with. However, there are certain types of people who, instead of adding value to our lives, only complicate and drain us. And the most dangerous part? We often don't see it coming. Today, we're going to talk about 5 types of people you should never live with after 60. No matter how much you care for them or try to justify it, allowing these people into your life could rob you of the chance to live this stage with fullness and peace. If this is your first time on the channel, my name is Gabriel, and here we explore how to apply Stoic wisdom and other philosophies to make better decisions and live with greater purpose. Stay until the end, because the last lesson reveals a type of relationship that may appear supportive, but actually controls your life more than you realize. Let's get started. Number 1, those who shut down your dreams by reminding you of your age. Have you ever shared an exciting dream or plan only for someone to remind you how old you are? At your age, you can't do that anymore, they say. Those words, disguised as realistic advice, are like a bucket of cold water on your aspirations. These are the people who not only remind you of your age, but also try to impose limits, as if your ability to dream and grow expired with your last birthday. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you held back from doing something just because someone made you doubt yourself due to your age? These people, even if they mean well, become the executioners of your dreams. They make you believe that the clock measures not just time, but your potential, and nothing is more dangerous than buying into that lie. The reality is that after 60, many of us feel like this is finally our time to pursue the passions a busy life once kept out of reach. Whether it's learning something new, traveling, writing, or even starting a business, age can be seen as an advantage, not a barrier. As George Bernard Shaw once said, "We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing." If you let others define you by a number, you'll end up giving up on life long before life gives up on you. Let me ask you this. How many dreams have you put off because you thought it's just not the right time? Maybe you wanted to pick up a new hobby, start a project, or take that trip you've always dreamed of. And then, when you share it, someone says, "You don't have the energy you used to," or "leave that for the young folks." These are exactly the kinds of people you need to avoid at this stage of your life. Because, at the end of the day, what they're really doing is projecting their own fears onto you. Remember what Seneca said? "The greatest hindrance to living is the expectation of tomorrow and the waste of today." We keep putting off dreams, fearing what others might think, or falling for the false idea that our chance has passed. But today is all you truly have. And the time to act is now, not tomorrow. A good example of this is Sophia, a woman who, at 72, decided she wanted to start learning how to paint. For decades, she'd made excuses: work, kids, lack of time. When she finally retired, friends and family told her it was too late for that painting was a youthful hobby. But Sophia ignored those voices. She signed up for classes, and not only did she discover a hidden talent, but she also found a new way to express herself that brought her more joy than she'd felt in years. Best of all, she now shares her art with the world, something she'd never have achieved if she'd let her age define her limits. This is where practical wisdom comes in. If someone constantly reminds you of your age as a limitation, it's time to create some distance. You don't need that negative energy in your life. Surrounding yourself with people who support you, who encourage you to keep exploring and growing, is crucial. Seek out friendships and relationships that inspire you to keep dreaming, not those that try to dim your light. Age shouldn't be seen as a restraint, but as a source of strength. After 60, you have an edge that younger people don't: experience. You know more about life, you've been through more, and you have the wisdom to face new challenges with a richer perspective. Your mind is more ready than ever to absorb new ideas, to create, to enjoy. So if someone ever tells you you can't do that anymore, remember this: it's not your years that limit you, it's the beliefs you let others place on you. Why let someone else define what's possible for you? As the philosopher Soren Kierkegaard said, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Learn from your past, but don't get stuck in it. The next time someone says you're too old for something, take a deep breath and ask yourself, is it really my age holding me back, or other people's opinions? If it's the latter, then it's time to break free. Because no matter how old you are, your life is still yours, and only you can decide how to live it. This is your time. Don't let anyone, not even those around you, convince you otherwise. Number 2, lovers who steal your peace with their selfish demands. Romantic relationships at any age should bring peace, support, and mutual growth. But as we reach our later years, it becomes even more essential to protect our energy and emotional well-being. If you've ever had a partner who drains you, turning love into an endless list of demands, it's time to pause and ask yourself if that relationship is truly adding value to your life. Picture this: after 65, you've reached a point where you no longer want unnecessary complications. You want to enjoy each day, savor quiet moments, and live with peace. Yet, there are relationships that, instead of giving you that peace, drain you emotionally. These are the partners who, rather than walking alongside you, expect you to carry their burdens, insecurities, and demands until you're left feeling exhausted. Instead of sharing life, it feels like they're slowly taking pieces of yours. The troubling part about these relationships is that they often start subtly. At first, everything seems fine: an occasional complaint, a small request here or there. But before you know it, you're spending all your energy trying to meet this person's expectations and demands. And here's the crucial question: is that really love? Or are you simply fulfilling someone else's needs at the cost of your own well-being? Psychologist Esther Perel, an expert in relationships, reminds us that love is not all you need, but it does give you the courage to face everything. And that's the key. A romantic relationship should be a safe haven, not a storm. If your partner makes you feel drained, stressed, or as if you constantly have to meet their demands, that's not love. It's emotional dependence disguised as love, which can be dangerous at any stage of life, but especially now when your emotional health and peace should be top priorities. Consider Fernando's story. At 70, he met someone who initially reignited his excitement for love. But over time, that person began to demand more than Fernando could give: his time, his money, his attention. There was always a new complaint or demand. Fernando, who had worked hard his whole life to enjoy a peaceful retirement, began to feel that this relationship was more of a burden than a gift. He realized that instead of feeling happier, he was more exhausted and less at peace than ever. Finally, he made the difficult decision to end the relationship, understanding that true companionship should lift you up, not weigh you down. One of the most important lessons Stoicism teaches us is to distinguish between what we can control and what we cannot. In relationships, the only thing you can control is what you choose to tolerate. If you're in a relationship where your emotional needs aren't respected, where it always feels one-sided, it's time to re-evaluate that connection. As Seneca said, the most powerful person is the one who has control over themselves. This power includes choosing who you share your life with and under what conditions. And let's be clear, solitude is not worse than being in a bad relationship. In fact, there's a big difference between chosen solitude and imposed loneliness. Choosing to be alone, if it means preserving your mental peace, is an act of great courage. If a relationship takes more from you than it gives, being alone can be a liberating choice, allowing you to reconnect with yourself, recharge your energy, and open yourself to relationships that truly add value to your life. So let me ask you, in your current relationship, do you feel peace or stress? Do you feel supported or trapped? These are crucial questions that should guide your decision to stay in a relationship or not. If the answer is negative, remember that you always have the right to choose well-being above all else. Lovers who demand more than you can give are, in reality, emotional vampires in disguise. And that's not what you need at this stage in life. What you deserve now is a relationship built on mutual respect, unconditional support, and serenity. If someone is stealing that from you, no matter how much you care for them, it's time to consider whether that relationship is worth holding on to. Remember, as writer Khalil Gibran said, "Love gives naught but itself and takes naught but from itself." If it's taking more from you than it's giving, it isn't love. It's dependency, and that dependency can cost you far more than a broken heart. It can cost you your peace. Number 3, dependent adult children. One of life's greatest satisfactions is raising children and watching them grow, become independent, and build lives of their own. But in many cases, adult children struggle to fully separate, remaining dependent on their parents emotionally, financially, or even physically far beyond what they should. And here's where a problem arises that few dare to address. Instead of helping you enjoy your independence in later life, your adult children unknowingly sabotage it. You might recognize this situation. Your children, though grown, still rely on you for financial support as their constant emotional backbone, or even to handle responsibilities they should be managing themselves. And while you love them with all your heart, living with children who haven't fully let go keeps you trapped in the role of caretaker. This can take away the freedom you've worked so hard to achieve. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Each of us is responsible for our own lives." This truth is crucial for both you and your children. In your later years, your mission is no longer to live your children's lives, but to fully enjoy your own. When you allow your adult children to remain dependent on you, whether because they haven't built lives of their own or because you're afraid to let go, both of you end up stuck in an unhealthy relationship of dependency. Think about it for a moment. How much of your time, energy, and resources are you still devoting to solving problems that are no longer yours to handle? This isn't about not loving your children or refusing to be there when they truly need you. It's about drawing a clear line between helping and carrying someone else's life. Rather than being the engine that drives them forward, you become the anchor, holding them in place. Without realizing it, you're tied to a responsibility that no longer should be yours. Take Julia's story, for example. She had 2 adult children, both over 30, still living at home because they had yet to find their way. Though both had jobs, they continued asking Julia for financial and emotional support. She always obliged, wanting the best for them. But little by little, Julia began feeling trapped. She realized that while she loved her children, her life revolved around solving problems they hadn't learned to handle on their own. Julia felt guilty for wanting her own space, her own freedom, but she knew something had to change. Eventually, she decided to have an honest conversation with them. She explained that it was time for them to take charge of their own lives, as she needed the space to enjoy hers. It wasn't easy, but Julia knew that this step was crucial, not just for her own well-being, but also for her children's growth. What seemed like a selfish act actually gave her children the push they needed to become truly independent. This story reflects an uncomfortable reality. By allowing your adult children to remain dependent, you not only deprive yourself of the freedom you've earned, but you also rob them of the opportunity to mature and build lives of their own. Instead of helping them, you reinforce a dependency that will ultimately do them more harm than good. Independence is essential not only for you, but for your children as well. If they don't learn self-sufficiency, they'll remain stuck in a cycle of dependency that prevents them from living fully. And for you, that dependency takes away your chance to enjoy this stage of life, a time when you can finally put your own needs and desires at the center. French philosopher Simone de Beauvoir said it best: "In old age, one must finally find the freedom that youth denied us." That freedom includes the power to decide how you want to live, unbound by others' demands, even those of your children. So, how do you handle this situation? The key is to set loving yet firm boundaries. It's not about cutting ties with your children, but helping them understand that it's their turn to take control of their own lives. As a parent, your role is no longer to solve all their problems, but to guide them from a healthy distance. This can be challenging, especially if you've spent years as their main source of support, but it's essential for their growth and your well-being. Remember that true independence isn't just about physical space, but also about emotional space. You have the right and the responsibility to protect that space for yourself. And in doing so, you're not abandoning your children, you're helping them grow. Sometimes the most valuable lesson we can teach our children is that they're capable of living without our constant intervention. So if you find yourself living with dependent adult children, it's time to reflect. Is this situation truly benefiting both of you, or is it keeping you all stuck? At 65 or older, you've worked your whole life to enjoy this stage with autonomy and fulfillment. Don't let fear or guilt stop you from reclaiming that freedom. As poet Khalil Gibran said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. Now, it's their turn to fly on their own and yours to live freely." If you're enjoying this video so far and feel that you're discovering new ways to protect your well-being and freedom in later life, I invite you to subscribe and hit the like button. This helps me continue creating valuable content for those who want to live this stage with peace, autonomy, and purpose. Stay tuned until the end, because lesson number 6 could open your eyes to the impact these types of relationships can have on your life and how to take back control. Let's keep going. Number 4, the carriers of complaints and negativity. Have you ever spent time with someone who always seems to have something to complain about? People who, no matter what happens, can always find something negative to say. What you may not realize is that this type of attitude can be contagious, especially when you're sharing daily life with someone like that. At this stage in life, the last thing you need is to be dragged into a constant cycle of negativity, because that energy doesn't just wear down your patience, it erodes your mental and emotional well-being. As we reach our later years, the space we occupy and the people we surround ourselves with matter more than ever. It's no longer about putting up with everything or always being understanding, but about protecting your peace of mind. People who flood your life with endless complaints, pessimism, and frustration are sabotaging the tranquility you've worked hard to achieve. As Buddha once said, "You will not be punished for your anger, you will be punished by your anger." The same applies to negativity. It's not just theirs, it's also how it affects you when you're exposed to it daily. These people, the carriers of complaints and negativity, don't always do it consciously. They may be family, close friends, or even life partners, and often their negativity isn't intentional. But their constant complaining can slowly drain your joy and ability to appreciate the small, everyday moments. Remember, the environment we create around us has a profound impact on our quality of life, and a life filled with complaints is one lacking in color, optimism, and most importantly, peace. A clear example is Pedro. After retiring, he decided to move in with an old friend who was going through a tough time. Always the optimist, Pedro thought he could help his friend see life in a different light. But over time, his friend's daily complaints about everything, the economy, his health, the news, the weather, began to wear down Pedro's spirit. What began as an act of kindness and support turned into a living situation that drained Pedro's positive energy. No matter how many times he tried to change the topic or focus on the good, his friend kept returning to the same thing: more complaints and more problems. Pedro soon realized he couldn't change his friend, but he could change how he responded to the situation. He decided to limit his time with him and seek out healthier environments, surrounding himself with people who shared his optimism and desire to fully enjoy this stage of life. This small adjustment made a big difference in his well-being. Sometimes, what we need most is to recognize when a relationship or living situation is dragging us down and to have the courage to distance ourselves for the sake of our mental peace. Here's where an essential lesson from Stoicism comes in. You can't control what others do or say, but you can control your response. Epictetus reminds us, it is not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of their significance. This applies to people too. You can't change someone who's always complaining, but you can choose not to be dragged down by their negativity. You can choose who you allow into your space, who you share your time with, and most importantly, what energy you allow into your life. The challenge of living with negative people is that, little by little, you start adopting their perspective. You begin to see life through the lens of their complaints, and without realizing it, you find yourself focusing on what isn't working instead of appreciating what is. This kind of influence can be subtle, but over time, it affects your happiness and your ability to enjoy this precious stage of life. Instead of letting their complaints become the background noise of your days, set boundaries. How can you do this practically? First, don't engage with their complaints. If someone begins to complain, redirect the conversation to something positive or change the topic. If that doesn't work, consider limiting the time you spend with that person. You don't have to be rude or confrontational, but be firm about protecting your emotional space. And if you live with someone like this, find ways to balance that negativity. Surround yourself with people, activities, and places that fill you with positive energy. It can be as simple as going for a solo walk to clear your mind, joining a group of like-minded people, or spending time on a hobby that relaxes you. Another important strategy is to practice active gratitude. Gratitude is the perfect antidote to negativity. Every day, take a moment to reflect on the good things in your life, from the small to the significant. Even on the grayest days, there is always something to be thankful for. This simple act helps you stay focused on the positive, even when your surroundings try to pull you into complaining and pessimism. And remember the words of German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. He who fights with monsters should be careful, lest he thereby become a monster. If you spend too much time with negative people, it's easy to fall into their same patterns. Don't risk losing your joy and ability to enjoy life just by trying to endure someone else's endless complaints. In short, protecting your peace of mind is essential at this stage of life. If someone around you is a constant source of complaints and negativity, set clear boundaries. Don't let their dark outlook cloud your daily life. Remember, this is your time to enjoy what you've built, to live in tranquility, and to surround yourself with people who add to your well-being, not sabotage it. Number 5. Emotional vampires who drain your energy. Throughout life, it's inevitable to encounter people who seem to drain all your emotional energy, leaving you exhausted and with little left for yourself. In your later years, living with someone like this isn't just tiring. It can seriously impact your mental, physical, and emotional health. These emotional vampires aren't necessarily ill-intentioned, but their constant need for attention, support, and validation ends up depleting every bit of energy you have. Think of your emotional well-being as a battery. Over the years, you've learned to manage your emotions, to prioritize what truly matters, and to value your peace of mind. But when an emotional vampire enters your life, that battery begins to drain at an alarming rate. These people always seem to have a crisis, always need your support, and every interaction leaves you feeling weaker, more frustrated, and with less space to care for yourself. The trap of living with this type of person is that we often feel responsible for saving them or being their constant source of support. But here is where we must apply one of Stoicism's most powerful teachings. We cannot carry the emotional weight of others. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Therefore, guard accordingly what you allow yourself to think." When an emotional vampire invades your space, their negativity and demands begin to contaminate your own mind, affecting the quality of your thoughts and well-being. The key to dealing with these people is to set firm boundaries. These boundaries not only protect your energy, but also teach the other person that you can't be their sole source of emotional stability. Stoicism teaches us to differentiate between what we can and cannot control. You can't control another person's emotional state, but you can control how and how much you interact with them. It's essential to understand that, while you may want to help, you can't take on the responsibility of resolving someone else's emotional life. A powerful technique to protect yourself from emotional vampires is called emotional distancing. This doesn't mean cutting off communication or abandoning them altogether, but learning to create an emotional space where their problems don't become your problems. Practice listening without absorption. Be present, but don't let yourself become emotionally involved to the point that it affects you. This might sound challenging at first, but it's an essential skill for maintaining your peace. Another way to protect yourself is to focus on self-care. It's easy to forget your own needs when someone is draining you emotionally, but the more you take care of yourself, the more resilient you'll be around these people. Dedicate time to activities that recharge you emotionally, whether it's meditation, exercise, reading, or anything else that helps you refocus your energy. When your emotional battery is full, it's easier to resist the impact of those who try to drain it. A useful concept from psychology is limited empathy. It's natural to feel empathy for others, but when you're dealing with an emotional vampire, you have to learn to limit that empathy so it doesn't consume you. This doesn't mean being unkind, but rather being kind to yourself first. Know when to say enough, when to offer support without getting lost in the other person's problem, and when it's time to take a step back for your own well-being. Remember, living with someone doesn't mean absorbing their emotions. You are living your life, not theirs. If you allow an emotional vampire to drain you, you end up sacrificing your well-being for someone who, in many cases, doesn't even realize what they're doing. Here, the Stoic concept of the dichotomy of control is crucial. You can't control the intensity of their issues or emotions, but you can control how much energy you allow them to take from you. If you realize that someone else is draining your emotional energy, it's important to act wisely. Set clear boundaries, surround yourself with others who recharge you with their presence, and prioritize your mental peace above all. This is a stage in life where you deserve tranquility, and there's no reason to sacrifice that for someone else's emotional state. As psychologist Carl Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. As you age, it's crucial to look inward and recognize your own needs. If you're allowing others to drain your energy, you're not fully living in the present. Protect yourself, guard your emotional space, and above all, remember that you don't have to solve anyone else's life. This is your time. At the end of the day, it's not about rejecting others, but about preserving your ability to enjoy your life. The energy you have now is a valuable resource, and it's your responsibility to ensure that no one drains it without your permission. Number 6, the caretakers who control your life. It's natural that, as you reach a certain age, your children or family members may want to be more involved in your well-being, offering to help or making decisions on your behalf with the intent to take care of you. But there's a fine line between caring for someone and starting to control their life. When those who say they're caring for you begin deciding for you, taking over your choices and imposing their will, they're no longer helping. They're limiting your autonomy. Maybe you've heard phrases like, "Don't worry, we'll handle that," or "No need to worry about that decision, I'll take care of it for you." Though they may sound well-meaning, they're actually taking away your ability to make your own choices and live as you see fit. What starts as an act of help can quickly turn into a form of control, leaving you with little say in important aspects of your life. Have you ever felt that, even though you're perfectly capable of making decisions, your children or other family members assume it's better if they make choices for you? While this behavior often stems from love and concern, it can become stifling. Stoicism teaches us that personal freedom is one of life's greatest goods, and that giving up control of our decisions, especially when we're still able to make them, is a way of losing that freedom. As Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The key here is recognizing when that help stops being support and starts turning into control. Children, often driven by fear that their parents may suffer or struggle, may begin making decisions without consultation. This can range from financial matters to health decisions or even choices about where to live and what activities to do. Suddenly, you find that, without realizing it, you've been pushed into the background of your own life. At this stage, more than ever, you need to have control over how you want to live. Having someone help is fine, but that help should be collaborative, not imposed. You are still the author of your own destiny. Don't allow others to take the wheel, even if their intentions are good. Marcus Aurelius expressed it perfectly. The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane. And in this case, it's not your children who are misguided, but the situation they create when they don't respect your capacity to choose. It's essential to have clear and honest conversations with those around you. If you feel that your children or anyone close to you are taking too much control over your life, you need to establish boundaries. Let them know you appreciate their help, but that you are still capable of making your own decisions. These boundaries protect your autonomy and help them understand that while they love you and want the best for you, they must respect your independence. A practical approach is shared decision-making. Instead of allowing your children to decide for you, involve them in the important decisions. You bring your experience, and they bring their concerns. But the final say, for matters within your control, should remain yours. This fosters a more balanced relationship and allows you to continue living according to your values and desires. Also, take time to reflect on how you want to live this stage of your life. Do you want your days to be defined by what others decide is best for you? Or do you want your later years to be a time of peace, where you can enjoy the freedom you've worked your whole life to achieve? As Seneca said, the most important part of life is to enjoy what we have in this moment. And that's only possible if you have control over your own choices. It's not about rejecting your children's or family's help, but about reminding them that you are still the one who decides. The challenge is finding a balance where you can accept the support you need without sacrificing your autonomy, because it's one thing for someone to help you and another entirely for them to direct you. Always remember, this is your time. You deserve to live it according to your own choices, without feeling that someone else is steering your life. No matter your age, dignity and respect for your independence should be non-negotiable. Don't allow caretakers to control your life. Appreciate their love and support, but stand firm in your right to live on your own terms. Your life is yours, and that doesn't change with age. Life after 60 is full of opportunities to rediscover yourself, to enjoy your freedom, and to surround yourself with people who truly add value. Throughout this video, we've talked about the types of people you shouldn't live with at this stage, because your well-being, peace of mind, and independence are the most valuable things you have. Remember, at this age, it's not about just surviving. It's about living fully, making choices that empower you, and allow you to enjoy each day with serenity and purpose. The years you've lived have given you the wisdom to choose how you want the years ahead to be. Surround yourself with relationships that respect your freedom, that allow you to grow, and most of all, that bring you peace. As we've seen, it's not always easy, but making these choices can be the difference between a life of weariness and a life of fulfillment. My name is Gabriel, and if this is your first time on the channel, I invite you to subscribe and turn on the notifications bell so you don't miss any of the topics we'll be exploring. And if you've made it this far, it means you take your well-being and personal growth seriously, which deserves recognition. To know who's committed and made it to the end, comment the phrase, "I am Stoic," and tell me where you're listening from. I'd love to know who's walking with me on this journey toward a more fulfilling, conscious life. Don't leave without sharing this video with your loved ones. Maybe there's someone close to you who needs to hear these words and find a new perspective today. Sometimes, a small piece of advice can make a big difference. See you in the next video.